Namaste. This video is just a warm-up. I want to share with you what I do every morning at the beginning of my asana practice, just to get my body ready to move into the more dynamic asana, such as sun salutations. So I hope that it's useful for you to use in conjunction with my other videos. So we'll begin just sitting comfortably. If it's better for you, maybe you prop yourself up on a cushion or a blanket or maybe some yoga blocks. Wherever you feel that you can have your sit bones grounding down onto whatever surface you're sitting on, and the top of your head also reaching up nice and tall, so that the spine is long, the pelvis is neutral. And you can relax your hands on your knees or have them in your lap, whatever feels more comfortable for you. Go ahead and close your eyes if that feels good for you, or you can leave them open. Take a deep inhale, reach your shoulders up towards your ears, and then exhale, just roll them down and back. Maybe bring some awareness and visualize what your spine actually looks like, and take another inhale. Reach the top of your head towards the ceiling. Imagine that the spine is lengthening out between each and every vertebra. And then as you exhale, allow the natural curvature of your spine to return, and use that exhale just to switch on the abdominal muscles, the pelvic floor muscles, imagining that you're just squeezing and lifting up. Inhale, expand down into your belly, and reach the top of your head tall towards the ceiling. And then exhale, once again, hug and lift the abdominals, the pelvic floor up. Inhale, expand down and up at the same time. And exhale, squeeze and hug. One more time, inhale. Think about making yourself a little bit taller and bigger, but also relaxing down. Breathing down into the belly. Exhale. One more time. Lift up. Just finding a slight activation of the abdominal muscles in the pelvic floor. Keeping that kind of rhythm going of your breath. One more time. We'll take a deep inhale. But then as we exhale, keep the spine nice and tall, but keep hugging and lifting up. Place your hands now on your knees. We're going to start just with some very gentle movements, just circling around in a clockwise direction, keeping the sit bones grounded and keeping the top of the head reaching tall away from the sit bones. So there's this lengthening through the spine, but just adding some movements now. So there's really no wrong way to do this. Start small though. And what we do is just making these circles gradually bigger and bigger. You may begin to feel some sensations in your hips, or you can add some shoulder movements, circling with your rib cage. Maybe there's some clicking, popping going on. Just moving nice and slowly, mindfully, not trying to go anywhere or do anything in particular, but just feeling in your body what these movements bring to you. And as you make these circles bigger and bigger, you can slightly change how you move. So maybe you're circling around with the rib cage now, kind of leading this action with the breastbone, with the sternum. But maybe bring your head into it, because we're just warming up the spine, really, just starting to get some movement into the spine. And the neck is a part of the spine. So very gently, totally with ease, not with any kind of effort at this point. And just keep doing this at your own pace, in the way that feels good for you. And if you find that there's somewhere, as you lean over to one side or lean forward or backward, that there's somewhere that just feels a bit sticky, you may want to just linger there and breathe into it, not trying to change anything about it, just observing. And this is a great way to begin any movement practice, because what we do is we allow ourselves to just tune into how our body is feeling. So go ahead and now circle around in the other direction. Again, same thing, just moving in whatever way feels good. The spine can move in so many ways. So explore the flexion and the extension, also twisting within these movements. Twisting around as you rotate around. Just feeling and breathing. And we'll slowly make these circles smaller and smaller, just coming back the way that we started. And this probably will look different every single time you do it, because your body is going to feel different every single day. Maybe finishing off as we make these circles smaller and smaller with just like a little bit of a belly dance. I really like to wiggle around just in my belly, kind of making sure that I touch the lumbar spine. Getting all the fascia and the muscles around there worked into as well. Using some core engagement too. So we'll finish these movements just sitting tall right where we started. One more big inhale in, and then exhale. So hopefully you're feeling really good now. We're just going to take the legs out wide now. Shake it out if you need to. Not pushing into any kind of deep stretch at this point, just wherever you feel you can kind of sit more or less, again, tall. Sit bones grounded, top of the head reaching tall. So again, this may mean that you're still up on your blocks. It may also mean that you have your knees slightly bent. That's fine. We're still really thinking about the spine. That's really what we're trying to warm up into. But what we're going to do is take a deep inhale in, and then as you exhale, just using the strength of your abdominals to get you there, start to twist your chest around towards your right foot. Another breath to get you there. Try and keep that left foot pointing up towards the ceiling. So maybe switching on some leg muscles there to keep that leg where it is instead of falling in or falling out. Sit bones still grounded. And then on your next inhale, with the fingertips down on the floor, reach as tall as you can, and then as you exhale, crawl your fingertips away towards your right foot. Keep the toes pointing up towards the ceiling, so a little bit of engagement through the legs. And then keep breathing into this. Make sure that that left sit bone stays grounded. So don't be tempted to just try and get your fingertips as far towards your foot as you can by lifting that sit bone. Keep it grounded. And just slowly move as far as it feels comfortable for you. Maybe finding now a little bit of the effort that we want to build into our asana practice. We always want to have this balance of ease and effort. Starting with lots and lots of ease and slowly building that effort in. So we'll come back up. And again, inhale to center nice and tall, and then exhale over towards the left foot. Again, just using 2 or 3 breaths here, just using your own strength, not pulling yourself into it, to get you around as much as you can with your own strength. Legs a little bit active. And then on your next exhale, starting to crawl the fingertips towards the left toes, not trying to go any particular distance, just again feeling, making sure the right sit bone stays grounded, and just using the breath to get you there. Make sure that your toes stay pointing up towards the ceiling so the legs aren't rotating in the hip sockets. All right, we'll come back up. Again, inhale yourself nice and tall right here in the center. And then exhale, we're just going to fold forward slightly. Again, not pushing it, keeping the toes pointing up towards the ceiling. Keeping the sit bones as flat as possible. They'll come up a little bit, of course. But keep your spine long. Again, just fingertips on the floor. And don't worry about if you're not as deep as me. You may be here, and that's awesome. Just wherever you're starting to get that a little bit of effort along with this ease. And try and find length through the low back. Again, it might even feel good to do that little belly wiggle here. It really helps break up the fascia in that area, just to move around a little bit through this engagement of the muscles of that area. And you'll engage by doing the little wiggles, reaching your navel towards your spine and your pelvic floor muscles lifting up. All right, we'll come back up. Bring the legs in, shake it out a little bit. And we'll just come over now and warm up the wrists a little bit as well. So we'll come into a tabletop position. And, often yoga teachers talk about having the middle finger pointing forwards. If that feels good for you, that's great. But it's also fine to have your index finger pointing forward, so a little bit of external rotation. And just make sure that you're pressing evenly through the hands, especially down into the knuckles of the first finger. Lift your abdominals up towards your spine a little bit and squeeze your glutes. So we start to get like this activation through the core. Press a little bit into the mat. So kind of like we're trying to just push ourselves away from the floor a little bit. Now with this activation, grip the mat with your fingers and then start to circle your shoulders around your wrists. Always starting small. It's the small movements really where we get to know ourselves. And then we can do the bigger movements with more control. So always start small and build up. So you might find that you want to get your hips moving around a little bit in these circles too, if that feels good for you. But just make sure that you're really gripping the mat and using the muscles of the hands and the fingers as well as the shoulders and the abdominals as you circle the shoulders around the wrists, going a little bit further and further forward. You can circle around in the other direction now. Don't be shy about bringing your weight really far forward over your fingers. There's quite a lot of space there that you can move into. Really play around with it. All right. So tuck the toes under. You can sit back on the heels and just give your wrists a little bit of a counter stretch. Cool. And then bring the hands back facing forwards, fingertips facing forwards. Now you can stay in your tabletop position for this, or if you're feeling good, you can come into kind of like halfway to downward facing dog. So we're not trying to go all the way into downward facing dog. But we're just going to start rocking forwards and backwards a little bit. Okay? With the knees up. And then use this to play around with different placements of the hands. So just turning the fingers wide, turning them back behind you, just moving forwards and backwards, as fast or as slow as you like. So kind of just playing around with having a bit of weight on your hands in these different positions. If it feels good, you can add whatever hip movements you want. I really like just doing things like this to begin with. And you might start to feel like, oh, actually, wow, that feels good. And you find yourself going into all sorts of strange and wonderful shapes because you're just moving in a way that your body has discovered through not having any kind of like dogmatic approach to movement, but just a sense of curiosity. And then with that, you can start to walk your feet a little bit closer towards your hands.
keeping the knees bent. Slowly roll yourself up with your glutes really, really active to come into a nice tall standing position. And hopefully you're feeling really good now and ready to move on to some sun salutations, or maybe you're still just moving around on your mat, feeling how your body is responding to these movements. Go for it. Just keep listening to your body. Get out of your head. Forget about what anybody says, what your mind is saying, and just have a sense of curiosity as you go on into the rest of your practice and into the rest of your day. Thank you for joining me. Please make sure and subscribe. Namaste.